I was on the verge of marriage when my fiancé suddenly told me he had a 5-year-old little sister. The age gap was so extreme that suspicion crept in. Could she actually be his daughter? I secretly ran a DNA test on the two of them. When the results came back, I realized I had been overthinking. That night, I cried while apologizing to my fiancé, but instead of relief, he stared at the report in disbelief, his hand trembling as he held it. Around New Year's, my fiancé Daniel Wright took me to meet his parents. We had been together for nearly 2 years. Daniel was handsome, successful, gentle, and attentive. Even my sharp-eyed best friend couldn't find fault with him. I was pushing 30, and I'd had relationships before. To me, Daniel was the best man I had ever been with. In the past, things always fell apart when marriage came up. The moment I admitted I didn't want children, men would grow distant, unable to accept it. Eventually, those relationships ended. I understood. Most families wanted children. Better to make things clear before marriage than fight about it afterward. But Daniel was different. He said he didn't want kids either. When I asked him why, he playfully tapped my nose and said, "Because I love you. I don't want you to go through that pain." I pressed about his parents. He just smiled mysteriously and promised he'd take care of it. I chose to believe him. On the way to his parents' house, I was watching videos about meeting the family when Daniel casually remarked, "Claire, I have a 5-year-old sister." I murmured absent-mindedly, before the words sank in. Wait, what? A sister? 5 years old? I froze the video and turned to him in shock. You never mentioned that before. Daniel's face remained calm. He rubbed his chin as if trying to recall. Didn't I? Maybe I forgot. She's been in preschool all this time, so it slipped my mind. He chuckled awkwardly. I work overtime so much I hardly think straight. I thought you already knew. But I didn't believe his excuse. Daniel was deeply devoted to his parents, calling them almost every other day. I often overheard his conversations. Never once had I heard a child in the background, unless they had deliberately hidden it from me. And the age gap, 10 or 15 years, was one thing, but Daniel was 30, and his sister was 5. Could that really be possible? I asked carefully. That's a pretty big gap. Your mom had her that late in life? Daniel sighed helplessly. My parents were lonely after I started working. By the time I found out, the baby was already there. I had no choice but to accept it. Maybe that's why I never talked about her with you. His tone was resigned, and I couldn't bring myself to press further. But my mind wouldn't stop racing. The thought burst open in my head like a firecracker. Could this sister actually be his daughter? I hated myself for even thinking it. Maybe I had just watched too many melodramas. When the car stopped, his parents stood smiling warmly at the door. I shoved down my doubts, put on a bright smile, and handed over the gifts I had brought. His family was cultured, refined, gracious. I greeted them politely, my eyes lingering on his mother. I simply couldn't picture this elegant woman, nearly 50, choosing to have another baby at her age. Just then, a tiny figure came running out of the house and threw herself into my arms. This is my sister, my future sister-in-law. You're so pretty, she squealed in a sweet, childish voice. She hugged me tightly, calling me sister and sister-in-law over and over again. Mrs. Wright hurried over to pull her away, but the little girl clung to me stubbornly. Looking down, I saw a sweet-faced child with pigtails. This must be Daniel's 5-year-old sister, Lily. Lily tugged me inside, chattering nonstop. Big brother says I'm too noisy. That's why he wouldn't let me meet you. I missed you so much, sister. No, sister-in-law. You have to marry my brother soon. Despite myself, I noticed she wasn't like other children her age. I'd never liked kids, but she was remarkably well-behaved, almost as if she was trying to win me over. She poured me water, ate quietly without fuss, and gazed up at me with wide, pleading eyes, trying to act adorable. After dinner, Mr. and Mrs. Wright asked, in a roundabout way, when Daniel and I planned to marry. Not wanting to mislead them, I said directly, I don't plan on having children. To my surprise, they smiled warmly, nodding as if it were nothing. No hesitation, no disappointment. It felt unreal. A family that had chosen to have a child so late in life, and they were fine with me being child-free. When we left, Daniel caught my puzzled expression and relaxed. See? I told you, my parents won't pressure you about kids. I explained everything to them a long time ago, and they agreed. And Lily, she's adorable, isn't she? Don't be upset. I never meant to hide her from you. I smiled and nodded, feeling ashamed of my earlier suspicions. But then Daniel added, half joking, half serious, you're the perfect age to raise Lily as if she were your own daughter, too. In the days that followed, Daniel's little sister Lily kept reaching out to me. She sent me voice messages, her childish voice, calling me sister. She even sent me her drawings from kindergarten, proudly saying they were for me and Daniel. I replied, praising her artwork. Almost instantly, she called me on video chat, chattering away about her day at school. At the end, she asked, "Sister, do you like me?" I thought for a moment before answering, "Yes, I do." Hearing that, she lowered her head, and a sly smile flickered across her lips, something that looked almost like triumph. Her eyes didn't seem as innocent as before, but the next second, noticing I was watching her, she quickly replaced that expression with her usual bubbly grin. "I'm so happy. I like you too, sister." Her sugary words should have warmed me, but instead they unsettled me. Still, it happened only that once. Afterward, she went back to being affectionate and clingy, sharing her little worries in that sweet, childish voice. She often urged me to marry Daniel soon, so she could see me every day. Daniel took notice of all this. Teasing, he asked, "See, didn't I say Lily is adorable? Now you don't mind that I kept her from you, do you?" I pushed down my knees and shook my head with a smile. Then Daniel asked, almost probing, "Do you think you might want a child of your own someday?" I froze, then shook my head. No, my feelings toward Lily were like those toward a neighbor's little sister, not my own child. I didn't want children. Raising one came with endless problems, and I wasn't willing to sacrifice so much. Daniel said nothing more. Instead, he gently took my hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. "Then we won't," he said softly. "And if you ever change your mind, you can always borrow Lily to satisfy the craving." As I leaned into his chest, his smile grew wider, and his eyes grew distant, contemplative. "And besides," he whispered, "I really do love you. Let's get married soon." A strange flutter stirred in my chest, but instead of comfort, unease deepened. As the date of our engagement drew closer, my anxiety grew heavier. Both our parents had already met, and both families seemed pleased. Mrs. Wright often invited me over. I couldn't refuse. Whenever she saw me and Lily getting along, she watched me with a look of satisfaction. But the more I noticed it, the more it unsettled me. It was as if she were evaluating me, not welcoming me, but examining me like a product for approval. One afternoon, while I was with Lily, Daniel called his mother into another room. On impulse, I told Lily I needed the restroom and quietly followed. Just one wall between us. I overheard their voices discussing the engagement. I was about to walk away when I suddenly heard my name. Mrs. Wright's tone had none of her usual warmth. "She's acceptable, better than the last one." A pang hit me. Still, I told myself not to overthink it. After all, in-laws rarely got along perfectly. Daniel replied, "She's not clever. She probably won't notice anything." My breath caught. Notice what? What were they hiding from me? I don't even remember how I walked back. Only that Lily's voice pulled me from my daze. "Sister, why were you gone so long?" I forced a smile. My stomach hurt. "But you didn't use the bathroom," she said bluntly. "I saw you come out the other way." I scrambled for an excuse. "I just wanted some fresh air." This time, Lily said nothing. A few minutes later, she announced she was tired and wanted to nap. As she slept, I pulled out scissors, my hand trembling as I cut a few strands of her hair. My nerves were so frayed, I kept glancing at her face. Thankfully, her eyes stayed closed. But just as I held the strands, scissors still in hand, Lily's eyes snapped open. Wide awake, cold, unblinking. Her voice was disturbingly calm, unnervingly mature. "Sister, what are you doing? Why are you cutting my hair?" Panic rushed through me. Lily, your hair was tangled. I was just helping." Even a 5-year-old wouldn't buy that excuse. Her innocent fod slipped. She eyed me with suspicion. "I'm going to tell my brother." My stomach dropped. Cutting her hair had only been to confirm the suspicion tearing me apart inside. But if Daniel found out, he'd never forgive me. Children might not understand DNA testing. Adults did. I forced a smile, trying to coax her. "I'm sorry. I just liked your hair so much. I wanted to keep a little, a secret keepsake." Then I struck where she was weakest. "But if you tell your brother, he'll be angry. He won't marry me anymore." "Do you really want that, Lily?" Her eyes widened in alarm, and to my shock, she shouted with an obsessive fervor, "No, you have to marry him. You must marry my brother. I'll give you my hair." I nodded quickly, soothing her, agreeing with whatever she said. "Yes, I'll marry your brother. I promise." Her expression gradually softened back into something closer to normal. I lowered my gaze to hide my thoughts, gripping the strands of hair tightly in my pocket. That afternoon, I made an excuse to leave the Wrights' house, carrying both Daniel's and Lily's hair for a DNA test. On my way back, Daniel called. His voice was calm, but my nerves betrayed me. I answered vaguely, avoiding details. After a pause, he asked carefully, "Claire, did you happen to overhear something outside my mom's room today?" I faked surprise. "Huh? Lily told me you might have. If you heard something unpleasant, it wasn't what I meant. I was just agreeing with my mom." I forced a laugh, masking my fear with mock outrage. What? You were badmouthing me behind my back. What did you say? How would I dare? He laughed it off. Claire, I have to go. Talk later. In the days of waiting, I avoided their home and ignored every invitation. I knew I must have seemed strange to them, but all I cared about was the DNA result. My emotions tangled into knots, guilt for doubting him, yet dread fueled by Lily's odd behavior, Daniel's probing questions, his parents' unsettling warmth. 3 days later, the results arrived. My heart hammered in my chest as I held the envelope, so hard it felt like it might burst. I didn't dare open it until I was home. Taking a deep breath, I unfolded the report with trembling hands. Parent-child relationship excluded. I froze. Lily was not Daniel's child. Relief flooded me. Only then did I realize how absurd my suspicions had been. Of course she wasn't his daughter. I'd been poisoned by too many melodramas. I even laughed at myself. And then, pounding on my door, urgent, aggressive. Claire, Daniel's voice outside, sharper, more frantic than I'd ever heard. I need to ask you something. Why did you take Lily's hair? And why did you tell her not to tell me? The knocking grew louder. Open the door. I glanced at my phone. Several missed calls from him. Panicked, I shoved the report under my bed and opened the door. Daniel stormed inside, face dark, voice raised. You didn't actually think Lily was my daughter, did you? We've been together for 2 years. You know my character. I would never do something like that. His anger carried an undercurrent of panic, as if he feared something being uncovered, but weighed down by guilt. I didn't notice. I drew a breath and lied smoothly. I'm sorry. It was a stupid thought. I threw Lily's hair away afterward. Daniel pressed, eyes sharp. You really threw it away? I nodded, keeping my voice steady. Yes. It was nothing, just a joke. I had never seen him so furious. His anger felt strange, almost foreign. But since I was the one at fault, I could only swallow it. To my surprise, his fury gradually melted away, relief softening his face. Seeing me shaken, he lowered his voice, comforting me gently. I lost control. I'm sorry. Don't worry, Claire. I can show you our family records if you want. That should convince you. Lily is just my sister. Then his eyes darted to the floor. What's this? Before I could stop him, Daniel bent down and picked up the DNA report. In that instant, tears blurred my vision. I nearly broke down completely. I donate to charity every year. Why was life punishing me like this? I had clearly thrown the DNA report under the bed. But now, faced with Daniel's trembling figure, I could barely form words. I know Lily isn't your daughter. It's my fault. I let my mind run wild. I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't trying to. I lowered my head, stumbling through my apology. But the room remained heavy with silence. Curious and anxious, I lifted my gaze. Daniel was shaking all over. The crumpled report in his hands looked like it had just committed a crime. His bloodshot eyes were glued to the paper, as if he could read the truth directly off it. My heart skipped a beat. Yes, I was at fault. But did he really need to be this enraged? His reaction was far beyond anything I had imagined. After a long moment, he finally looked up at me. His eyes were red and veined. His voice was hoarse, almost broken. When did you do this? A few days ago. You said you threw Lily's hair away. How did you get more? How can you be sure it's mine and hers? He kept staring at the report, pale, lips bitten raw, murmuring like the world was collapsing. Not mine. How could it not be mine? It was as if the sky had shattered. His usual gentle, composed demeanor was gone. I gripped my phone tightly, edging toward the door, my voice careful but firm. Daniel, calm down. Let's talk this through. I've apologized. If you touch me, we're done. I'll call the police. I couldn't understand. The DNA report proved that Lily wasn't his daughter. Shouldn't he feel relief? Why did he act like the world had ended? And those words, not mine. How could it not be mine? A chill ran down my spine. This wasn't the reaction of a man shaken by a misunderstanding. It sounded more like he had always believed she was his child. Or worse, he was convinced Lily should have been his. I clenched my phone and tested him carefully. Daniel, what do you mean by that? He snapped his head up, eyes conflicted, his lips parted, then pressed shut again, as if he wanted to speak, but swallowed the words. That hesitation was all it took. A realization struck me like lightning. So, you always thought she was your child? Daniel's head jerked toward me, as if struck. His expression darkened instantly, and his smile twisted unnaturally. Claire, don't imagine things. Don't imagine things. You know better than anyone. Lily isn't your sister. She's your daughter. I forced a breath, keeping my voice steady. But she isn't your blood. His face drained of color. His mouth moved, but no words came. Then, without warning, he snatched the shredded report, slammed past me, and stormed out. I pressed a hand against my chest, feeling the sting, and strangely laughed. He tried to trap me, but he ended up trapped himself. 6. Daniel was, in almost every way, the perfect partner. If he had a flaw, it was this. At his age, he surely had relationships before me. I had occasionally seen him distracted by girls in white dresses, but he always returned to reality quickly. I felt a flicker of annoyance, but never mentioned it. I'd had my share of relationships too. As long as you moved on and treated the new love seriously, the past didn't matter. And Daniel never spoke of his EXEs. I used to think I was lucky, avoiding the mess of entangled EXEs. Now I realize the truth. One of his EXEs had left a child behind, a child he had been raising all along. And when I told him Lily wasn't his, it was like the foundation of the right household had shifted. I was in the eye of the storm, and first, I needed to protect myself. When I told my best friend, she didn't hesitate. She whisked me to her place. You're staying here. What if he takes it out on you at home? She stomped furiously. I said he wasn't flawless. And look, he set a trap for you. He wanted you to raise his daughter? Gross. I forced a bitter laugh. No wonder he told me he didn't want kids. He said it was to spare me pain. But really, he wanted me to treat Lily as my own. My friend hugged me tight. It's fine. Karma's real. He didn't even realize the girl wasn't his. And you've been raising someone else's child for 5 years. She laughed so hard tears came to her eyes. Take a few days to get over him. I'll dig into his past with my connections. This scandal, we'll savor it together. And I'll make sure he pays. My best friend dug around online and even managed to contact some of Daniel's college classmates. Piece by piece, his dating history surfaced. There had never been rumors of a pregnancy, but apparently once, he was caught to timing. One girlfriend at school, another back home. And the one back home? His first love. They'd never broken up all through college. I stayed at my friend's place for several days. One evening, we were both scrolling on our phones when she suddenly slapped my arm. Holy, look at this. On her screen was a grainy video filmed at night. The footage was shaky, faces blurred, but I still recognized the figure, Daniel. He was clearly drunk, stumbling. Then, on the street, he lashed out violently at a beautiful woman in a white dress. Her panicked cries echoed through the recording. My friend explained. That woman, his first love, he followed her and attacked her. This is already blowing up online. And guess what? She's married to a wealthy businessman now. They're making sure this goes public. The more noise, the heavier Daniel's sentence. Her expression hardened. The heavier, the better. Just then, my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. I picked up. It was Daniel's mother. I'd already blocked their family, but she had called from another line. Her voice was aged, worn down with desperation. Claire, please. Can we meet? No, Mrs. Wright, Daniel and I are over. She broke down, sobbing. Daniel's been arrested for assault. They took him away. I was about to refuse when my friend grabbed my hand, grinning viciously. Say yes. I want to tear them apart. When we met Mrs. Wright, I barely recognized her. More white strands threaded through her hair than I remembered. The first words out of her mouth were bitter. This is all my fault. I insisted on keeping that child. Who could have known that woman would betray my son? My boy did right to hit her. How was he wrong? The truth spilled out. Lily was born to Daniel's first love. She'd had the baby before she was even old enough to marry, and her family was poor. Under Mrs. Wright's interference, she abandoned the child and disappeared. Maybe it was the loss that haunted him, but Daniel never let go of his first love. And now, to discover the child wasn't even his. The Wrights had even pulled strings to bypass the system, registering Lily as Daniel's sister. I listened, numb. I didn't care anymore who was right or wrong. All I wanted was to cut ties with this family forever. What mattered was this. Daniel's first love was in the hospital with serious injuries. She and her husband had hired the best lawyers. They wanted Daniel in prison. Mr. Wright was busy pulling strings, suppressing headlines, begging lawyers. Mrs. Wright dabbed her tears and pleaded. Claire, it was my fault about the child. But with the lawyers, you know people. Can't you help us? I laughed bitterly. I do know people, but why on earth would I help you? She looked at me like I was a snake. Her voice cracked, furious. My son treated you so well the past 2 years. Don't you owe him anything? Couldn't you just be a good wife to him? Why so many ideas in your head? My friend stormed forward, unleashing fury. You wanted Claire to walk into hell with your son? Shame on you. Stop lying. Stop playing the victim. You disgust me. No wonder you were betrayed. Raising someone else's child serves you right. Mrs. Wright staggered against the doorframe, nearly fainting. A small figure rushed to steady her, but Mrs. Wright shoved her off violently. Get away. You wretched child. Who let you come down here? Lily fell to the ground, blood spilling from her forehead. No one moved to comfort her. In her grandmother's eyes, she was nothing but an enemy now. With blood streaking her face, Lily shrieked at me. This is all your fault. You made my brother abandon me. I'm his daughter, his real daughter. I don't want you as my sister-in-law. I don't want you to raise me. Get out of my house. I looked at her, and whatever shred of guilt I had evaporated. That sweet, doe-eyed little girl had been an act, just like Daniel's gentleness. Lily was no innocent child. She was clever, frighteningly so. Her venomous words must have been learned from Mrs. Wright. In truth, though they shared no blood, Daniel and Lily resembled father and daughter in the worst ways. I gazed at her calmly. Lily, your misfortune isn't my doing. In fact, I almost fell for your family's lies. I never said I'd raise you. It's your family that's shameless. She glared at me, silent, eyes burning with hatred. My friend tugged my arm. Come on, don't waste another second here. This family is insane. After that confrontation, I cut ties with the Wrights completely. My friend helped me move. I changed my number. Every possible link was severed. Daniel's case went to trial quickly. My friend insisted we attend the hearing. I watched Daniel shuffle in, no longer the confident, polished man I once knew. Shackled, shoulders slumped, his eyes were ash gray. When he spotted me, his face lit with shock, then hope. So his parents hadn't told him the truth. The look in his eyes was almost comical. I smiled faintly. Beside me, my friend scoffed. He probably thinks you're here because you still care about him. The thought soured my mood. I regretted not confronting him sooner, not tearing into him myself. Don't worry, she whispered. We'll visit him in prison. You can let it all out then. The hearing was short. The evidence was clear. The testimony, medical reports, and the victim's husband's legal team left no room for defense. Daniel was sentenced to 3 years. Mrs. Wright fainted in the courtroom. When I entered the visitation room, Daniel was already seated in that cramped chair. He looked up at me, forcing a smile, desperation in his eyes. Claire, I never had a child with anyone else. That brat isn't mine. It struck me. This was his response to the last words I had spoken to him. I let out a sharp laugh. You really are pathetic. You loved raising another man's child, didn't you? His face darkened. At last he realized, I wasn't here to mourn for him. I was here to mock him. His voice rose, his neck stiff with fury. How can you treat me like this? I treated you so well. My smile twisted. So well? If you truly loved me, why hide a daughter from me? Why tell me not to have kids, just so I could raise Lily instead? When I shared my values with you, you must have laughed at my naivety. What good is your kindness before marriage, when the truth makes me sick? Your affairs, your cheating, your double life, how could you ever deserve me? Daniel spat venom. You're 30 already. If you don't marry now, you'll just get old. The words didn't sting. I only smirked. So that's what you wanted to say all along. 2 years of holding it in must have been exhausting. Don't worry. You've got 3 years in here to say whatever you like. Funny thing. Remember that DNA report? I brought it home, but you were the one who picked it up. Tell me, isn't that karma? At the time, I thought heaven was cruel, letting you see it. But now I know, it was heaven helping me. His eyes burned red, but I didn't look back. I left him behind. When the case was finally closed, I felt like I could breathe again. My parents brought me home and comforted me. After everything, they no longer cared about marriage or children. To us, you will always be our treasure, they said. Whether you're 30 or 40, married or not, all that matters is that you're happy. My friends celebrated by whisking me away on a trip. We headed for a warm coastal city. We drank cocktails, watched the ocean waves, let the wind wash everything clean. What's next for you? She asked. Life goes on. I'll work, make money, live. If someday I meet someone who truly shares my values, maybe I'll marry. If not, that's fine too. She raised her glass, clinking mine. To new beginnings. I smiled, taking a sip. Watching the waves crash in the distance, I felt the shadows finally lift. The story of the Wrights was over, but my own life was just beginning.